Christina Fernandes. When you hear the name, you're going to think of a Goan lady, but actually Christina Fernandes is of German origin, and I'd like to introduce you to her today. This is a program called Literary Goa, where we look at authors and writers who have worked on themes related to Goa and from Goa. And Christina, of course, is very much a part of Goa because you're a daughter-in-law of Goa, right?
Yeah.
How?
My husband is Goan.
Yeah. So, Christina, your book is called Passion in Paradise.
Yes, correct.
And tell us about it.
It was my master's thesis for my MA in photojournalism. Yeah. And it was conceived very quickly because I was actually supposed to go off to Thailand and do something on statelessness. But I was quite heavily pregnant at the time. And as I was checking into my flight, I had some pain.
I see.
And so my doctor said, please don't travel to the north of Thailand and by yourself and do any of that. It's too risky. I was 27 weeks pregnant, I think.
I see.
So then my husband was coming to Goa for 3 weeks for Easter holidays with my son. I was pregnant with my second child.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'm going to come to Goa and I have to just figure something out because I need to do something.
Oh, wow.
Because this baby's coming and then I'll have 2 babies and I'll never finish my MA if I don't do something. And so that was how it came about.
This was your second MA?
Yeah, my first is a Master's of Science, but it was journalism.
Okay.
The first one was journalism, the second one photojournalism.
Wow. Tell us about what struck you as being unusual about Christianity in Goa, because it's obviously different from Christianity in Germany.
Yeah, but I'd always found it interesting since I met my husband and his family, how the faith is so much more part of their everyday life. Everything revolves somehow around feasts and holidays and church.
In Goa.
In Goa.
And in the diaspora as well.
Yeah, even in I mean, they were living in Kuwait at that time.
Yeah.
You know, it was before they retired and came back to Goa. So I found that very interesting, that even in Kuwait, which is obviously not a Catholic country or a Christian country, it was so important to them. They would have prayer meetings, and you know, somebody is ill, you have a prayer meeting and pray for them, and you know, you go to church and it's always a big occasion, and you observe all these feasts, which, you know, in Germany you'll be surprised how empty the churches are even on Easter. You know, I think Christmas is a bit busier, even though Easter is actually more important, but so it's very different. It's very much more present.
So how many pictures in your book? How long did it take you to shoot it?
3 weeks of non-stop shooting.
Wow.
Because I only had those 3 weeks that I was here. I shot thousands of pictures for sure. Yeah, and there's something like maybe 40 something in the book.
Yeah. And where did it take you all? Where did your work take you? To which parts of Goa?
We were mostly around the north, Panjim and Saligao and those places, but then also
Old Goa?
Old Goa for sure.
Yeah.
I went to one feast. I always forget the name of
Diwar?
the place.
No.
I went to Diwar, but not for a feast. There was a feast of St. Anthony. Do you know where that is?
Okay.
It's like, it's quite a big deal.
Maybe Majada or
Christ's
something?
blood.
I see.
The statue Christ's blood there.
I see.
And Nuve for
I
the
see.
Christ ashram.
I see.
So, but mostly sort of Panjim and surroundings, maybe up to an hour outside of Panjim, but this general area. Like I didn't ever venture anywhere.
Which are your 3 favorite photographs from the book?
Kind of a tough call. Definitely the cover, and I had gone to this Christ ashram, and there's a picture of the guy who runs it.
I think even sociologist Robert Newman has written about Christ.
Yes,
ashram,
correct.
Like
That's how I learned about it, through his work. And I was really interested because it just seemed really different.
Yeah.
And so I wondered if these people would be open to being photographed and interviewed, and or whether they would just, you know,
say no photos.
and feel really uncomfortable. And they were so chatty.
I see.
And I just ran around and took pictures of everything, and they did not mind one little bit.
See.
So I like all the photographs from there. And I have one from Our Lady of Milagres feast in Mapsa, where there's somebody pouring oil on Our Lady.
Where you find a lot of religious tolerance, because a lot of Hindu devotees come to the church to worship on a particular day and pour oil as offering and things like that. No?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when it comes to Christianity in Goa, what do you find different apart from the level of commitment, devotion?
Yeah.
Is it obviously it's also Christianity with the Asian flavor, with the South Asian flavor
Yes.
in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of traditions that come from before people were Christians, like the rose at the weddings.
The rose at the weddings. You
Yeah.
shot that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Where, for those who don't know, it's like the coconut oil being poured on the bride to be
Yes.
as a kind of.
I went through it myself,
I see,
in
I
fact.
see.
And there's not just, you were lucky if it's only a little bit of coconut oil, but you know. they
Nowadays
crank
in
out
jest, now.
ice cubes and.
But that's a joke. That's a
Yeah.
joke, and that's a modern.
It's not the traditional
It's not the
way,
traditional
but
thing.
they go a little.
They go a little bit
overboard.
berserk. So that's mischief added to the tradition.
Yes.
But yeah.
But yeah, so you have all these kinds of things which are really interesting because they come from older traditions and they kind of.
And they come from local traditions, and it's a
Yeah.
bit of
Not just
intermingling.
Hinduism, some come from before Hinduism as
True,
well, right? So
true,
it's really interesting to see how all of those things are incorporated.
So why did you go into photography? I mean, what attracted you to this field?
So I was first a journalist writing. I was a reporter. I was an editor for
In Germany
magazines.
or in the Gulf?
No, in the US first. I
US.
studied in the States, and I worked there in Washington D.C. for a bit. I was also in Bangkok for a while. I had a job in Bangkok, and then I moved to UK.
I see.
So I was kind of all over.
I see.
And then Dubai.
I see.
I worked in Dubai also. And then I became pregnant with my second child.
Yeah,
I was in Bahrain working.
Yeah.
Then I became pregnant with my first child, and we had to move back to the UK because of my husband's job.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just got cabin fever because I came there and I didn't have contacts and I had a baby and I couldn't work. And then I thought I have to do something.
Yeah.
And so I decided I'm going to go back to school and do a photojournalism MA because I always liked photography and I always was like a hobby photographer. And as an editor, you appreciate when somebody knows how to do two things because you can get the same person to do two jobs.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, this would be useful for me to have both skills, writing and photography.
It's very tough when you have a family, a young family, a growing family, and these fields are quite demanding. Both journalism and photography are demanding fields. No, especially photography, you have to be all over the place and you have to kind of connect. But when it came to working on your book in Goa, did you find people open to kind of you photographing them, or are they closed? What kind of a society is Goa? Some societies are open,
right.
Some are not.
They're very open. I found that no matter where I went, I don't think there was a single instance where somebody said, no, you can't take my photograph. It was great. I mean, my husband's family were so gracious, and they, they'd call me up and say, I heard there's a litany here, let's go and I'll take you. And everybody opened their homes. I went into churches and chapels, and everywhere I went, people were very happy to have me photograph them and be around and ask questions. And
people also feel a little bit happy when someone from outside takes an interest in their culture, because it's a way of acknowledging it and recognizing it.
Which is lovely, because it's not like that in Germany, pretty much. I'm pretty sure if I ran around with my camera going into people's houses at home, back home.
Privacy is a big issue there, no? I think we've reached another end of the debate where privacy and my rights and all are more important. Yeah. When it comes to journalism, how does it compare to photojournalism in that sense?
It was very interesting for me to do my master's in photojournalism, because I ended up being the only person with a journalism background. Everybody else was photographers. And then there's that saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
But when you actually get into photojournalism, you realize, of course, that's not true. If you just think about it, I have my own objectives when I take a picture, so automatically I'm giving you my point of view, and I can manipulate a picture very easily to make it so that it works for me and for my purpose. So I mean, you have the same challenges in photojournalism as you would have.
There's this huge debate. Yeah, there's this huge debate about photographers who manipulated their pictures to win.
Happens all the time.
International competitions.
All the time, world press photo, and then the winner turns out to have manipulated and.
But when it comes to, say, taking this field as a profession, what would be your advice to young people who might want to enter it? Is it worth it, or is photography dead? Because as some people argue, today everyone is a photographer. You have a smartphone, everyone can click. Is that true, or is there still the need for a professional in the field?
Personally, I believe there's there's still a need for professionals. Of course, it is dying. You know, even when I, how many years ago was that now? 8 years ago, I finished my master's. They were already saying it's dead, and the amount of programs that were there, the master's programs in photojournalism, were much lower because a lot of universities had cut them. But I think there's still a big need, and I think it's getting bigger. The need is actually getting bigger because there's so much manipulation out there. And you know, as somebody who just wants to find out about something that's happening in a certain place, how do I know, you know, if I look at Facebook or Instagram and I read people's posts, you know, so much is spread, so much misinformation is spread. And I think you have to find trustworthy sources of information where you think, okay, this person is going to report as objectively as possible and give both sides of the story and all these things. So I think it's important. It's not, you know, somebody running around with a cell phone clicking a picture. The quality of the images is excellent. I think our standards have grown enormously because we're so visual now. There's images everywhere. So you know, it's definitely become much more competitive. The level of photography has increased by a lot because of that. But I think when it comes to journalism and facts, I think it's important to have professionals who know ethical standards and will hopefully follow them.
Maybe we might need to find new models for raising revenues. That's a fact.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, much of the world is still under-photographed. And there are large sections who've never had a photo taken of themselves or their life, of their society.
Yeah.
And you know, even this generation with cell phones, I find that a lot of the phones are turned inwards, like, so they're selfies.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of selfies.
Yeah, and even the photos which are turned outwards, they won't share it, no? So that's a bit of a dilemma.
And it also becomes something that's discussed a lot is the right to representation. And who am I to come into your society and represent you? I mean, I did that, but I feel like I do also have a connection. I'm married to Goan. You know, I live here. I feel like it's also my community, even if I'm not born here. And
that debate is a bit contentious, because if no one has a right to represent someone else, then, like, you know, we can keep on breaking it down and no one will photograph anyone. But still,
I think it's great to empower communities. Say there's a place that's under photographed. Why not empower those people and actually give them cameras to take photographs of whatever they want to show of their society? That's also interesting.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Having said that, maybe we could shift gears, and but before that, I'll just introduce Christina again in case you joined us just now. Christina Fernandes is a daughter-in-law of Goa, but she's taken to Goa like a fish to water, so I say, or more than a daughter. But she's also published a book on Goa called Passion in Paradise, which looks at Christianity, lived Christianity in Goa. Maybe we can change gears a bit, Christina, and talk about the ukulele. You know what I mean.
Sure.
So, how did that start? I'm talking about your kids and the festival and whatever.
So when we moved to Goa,
which was in
2 years ago, so 2017, pretty much exactly 2 years ago now.
Okay.
One of our goals had always been that the kids really wanted to learn the guitar. But they were really little then. They are 9 and 8 now, so they were 7 and 6 then. So
and the smallest is?
She's now 5.
5.
So she was kind of out of the equation, although she had a little toy ukulele that she started banging on.
Okay.
But so we thought, okay, we're here now, maybe we can find, because we were living in Dubai before and it was very expensive to take lessons and not fun.
In music.
I myself tried to take lessons. And it was not fun. It was all about, this is how you're going to pass this exam and go to the, you know, very competitive, sort of focused if you want to become a professional and your kids need to go to, I don't know, the Royal College of Music or something.
Oh gosh.
So when we came here, I thought, okay, now
it's more relaxed, which it is.
And Goa is a very musical place. I find that people are very musical here, you know.
True.
So I thought, okay, maybe we can do it. And we found a really lovely teacher. But it turned out that because the kids were quite small, it was really difficult for their hands. And I had bought the little one, that ukulele, to just bang on. And they were playing around with it. And so the teacher said, you know, I think you should let them do the ukulele for a year or two. And when they're ready, we can transition them to the guitar. So they started the ukulele and they got really into it. And they loved it. And it was really fun. And then I started it. I had started the guitar and I also started playing the ukulele at the same time.
So you told me they would wake up in the morning
Yeah, wake up in the morning and just go straight downstairs, sit on the sofa, and do their practice at
Before class?
6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, every morning So I didn't have to chase them. I didn't have to
Okay.
tell them go do it, or it was not a chore for them. It was really
Okay.
fun. So that's how we started getting into it. Yeah.
And the ukulele festival?
So we were in Germany last year visiting my family in the summer, and my son saw something about this ukulele festival in Honolulu in Hawaii.
Hawaii.
And so he got really excited. And he was like, Mama, I really want to go. And I said, well, Honolulu is really far. I don't think it's really going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it, and I thought, Goa would be a fantastic place for a ukulele festival. And I wanted them to be, keep being excited about the ukulele and about music. So I thought about maybe I could have a ukulele festival here. We could just organize something little and do something ourselves. And I had found out about this lady who does work with survivors of human trafficking
I see.
in
Goa.
Calcutta.
Calcutta.
Actually, I think she started in Pune, but she's been in Calcutta now for a while. And so this organization is brilliant because she does basically music therapy with ukuleles with them,
I see.
and it's really beautiful what she does. So then I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to try to organize a festival, I don't want to try to make money with that because I feel like I don't even know what I'm doing. So how can I try to make money? So I thought, okay, if we make any profit
Yeah.
whatsoever, it'll go to her
I see.
and her organization.
I see.
So, and then I feel better trying to
Right.
raise
Put your
money
best,
for it
do
and
your
put my
best.
best rather than trying to
Right.
make a buck out of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So, and she got all excited about it and she was really into it. And she liked Goa, of course, because who doesn't? And so she also came for the festival. And yeah, so we organized a little festival here. It was really lovely. We had really great artists playing
Last
their
April,
music.
last April.
And it was really nice. We really had fun, and we had some really great people who came and
Wow.
played, and then we had open mics.
I
So
see.
that was really lovely because the level of skill that people brought was amazing. And there was one family where the dad played the ukulele, the son played tablas, the mother played the cello, and the daughter played the violin.
Oh, wow.
And they played classical music with the
I
ukulele,
see.
and it was really cool.
So it's fascinating, Christina, like from books and photography to the ukulele and music.
That's what happens when you have kids.
Good for you. It brings out the best in you, and sometimes it brings out a side which you're not even aware of. But having said that, what are your future plans? You mentioned the possibility of a PhD.
Yeah, I'm hoping to go back to university for a PhD. I'm just in the process of sending out some proposals.
On the
and,
topic of?
Not sure yet.
Okay.
It's very loosey-goosey at the moment. But yeah, I would like to because I feel like having kids, my brain space has been
Mostly for kids
focused on them,
Yeah.
and I've done a lot of stuff involving the kids. Like I've been teaching kids yoga, and even the ukulele festival was a bit kid-oriented. We had lots of kids playing the open mic and stuff like that. And I do kids camps,
Yeah.
like nature camps and things like that.
So you need a space for yourself
So
to
I
to
feel
grow.
like it's time now
Yeah.
that all three of them are in school, and it's time now to use my brain a little bit more.
So it would be also photography focused?
Yes, for sure.
I see.
Yeah, I'd be a PhD in photojournalism,
Fascinating.
photography.
Fascinating. What other projects would you like to work on in Goa if you had unlimited space and unlimited time, which we don't, but what projects would you like to work on?
I shot some pictures for this organization called Herbs. I don't know if you're
Yeah,
familiar
herbs,
with them.
yeah.
And we had gone they wanted to document your average Goan house
Yeah.
In the villages and stuff. So we had gone into homes in Chimbel and shot.
Herbs is an NGO which deals with
Yeah.
urbanization and such issues.
Yes,
They're
correct.
also working in Dharavi and they have a project in Chimbel and
Yes,
things like that.
indeed. So we were in Chimbel
I
taking
see.
pictures of homes, just your average homes in Chimbel, and we also went into the slum areas a little bit and shot there. And I was really fascinated by that, and I thought, I really love Goan houses, especially the kitchens. I love the kitchens. And so I thought it would be really cool to do some work on, just shooting the kitchens and talking about the family who lives in this space.
Their story.
Their stories, and then maybe get like a favorite recipe or something like that and put that in there. But I don't know, but and just documenting even these spaces, I really like the Goan homes, like the traditional no frills kind of homes, you know. The kitchen's always super full of all these things. I always wonder, how do they even track what's still in these kitchens? I mean, how many pots does one family need, you know? And it's really fascinating. So, and I think that would be really interesting to people outside of Goa who are not familiar with that.
When I listen to someone like you, you know, what strikes me is that for us, people who are here, we don't see anything unusual in the day-to-day life. But it is people like you who can spot something unusual and you know, explain it and also take it forward in that sense. So that's very interesting. There was a book brought out by, I forget who, I think Angelo Fernandes or something like that, who described all the pots in the Goan kitchen.
Is it?
And each pot has a name for itself, you know, it's very different and it has a utility for itself.
I would love to read that
book.
book.
Yeah, I probably could locate it somewhere. But, you know, it's like we guys are totally blind to it because we've stopped thinking about these things, which is tragic,
Yeah, and I've always, from the first time I ever visited Goa, and I had gone into my husband's grandmother's house, and she had one of those old kitchens in the back, you know. I was like, this is the most brilliant room I've ever seen. It's great. It's so fascinating and so beautiful, and it's got, you know, light coming in from the roof tiles and, you know, it's sneaking through, and just all these pots and, you know, the black wall behind the burners, and it's really
so
interesting.
There's this friend of mine called Joseph Dias, who's an architect, and his sons are growing up in some part of the Gulf, I think Kuwait or somewhere. And he wanted to explain to his kids, you know, what the Goan kitchen was like. So he's drawn Granny's kitchen and he's labeled it all, like, you know, because there's so much in it, as you're saying.
Exactly. There's so much in it.
What else would you like to work on? Do you, you know, I think it's very noteworthy that Goa is also a very under-photographed area. While we've had photographers here for a long time, and we've had some very prominent photographers going out from Goa to different parts of the country, the subcontinent. There were lithographers who worked for the Brits in Afghanistan, for example, in the 1800s. You know, but we've not kept up with this tradition. There are no archives. Many people have lost their old photos. You know, so I think we have a lot of work to do. Would you agree?
Definitely. I also feel, like I mentioned before, I think Goa is a really musical place, and I really like the people who come and play, you know, in little village feasts, or, you know, you get lots of people like that, and most of them are quite old now, so I feel like it would be really interesting to document them, photograph them, and document their work before they go.
So would that translate into photography or into video?
I personally would prefer it to be photography, although I see your point about, you know, obviously the sound you can get on video.
No,
but
I mean,
I'm not a videographer. I'm not, like, I don't use film ever. So
everything has its own charm. I mean, even black and white has its own charm. When it comes to black and white versus color, how do you rate it?
I think that I'm personally quite a color photographer, but I do enjoy people's work that is in black and white, and, you know, it's definitely got its merits. I think it keeps you more focused. I've been accused before of being seduced by colors, and then, you know, there's not much else about the photograph that's actually interesting besides the colors.
You have no issue with digital versus traditional?
I do not have issues. I enjoy shooting digital, but it is a completely different process, and I count myself lucky that I grew up, and when I first started photography, it was film photography. And I learned how to process in the darkroom, which is a completely different way of working. And I like both. I still shoot film as well, and I enjoy it very much. It's a much slower process, and, you know, you're not gonna shoot thousands of photographs in 5 minutes because film is expensive, and then you have to process it, and, you know, it's a nightmare. What are you gonna do with all the negatives? So it's got its own merits, I think.
A little bit on the culture shock, if you could call it that. Did it translate into good photography or photography ideas when you first came down to Goa?
Definitely, because, you know, when you go to a new place and everything seems exciting and exotic, which is not really maybe the nicest word to use, but you know, everything is just so different, and you find everything fascinating. So you want to document it all, and I think it's really, it's actually nice. It's okay, we talk about representation and do I have a right to represent you? But like you said, you look at this place and what's new? You know, what's interesting? It's where I grew up, it's the same stuff. But somebody from outside comes in and is like, wow, this is great. And then it reminds you of, oh yeah, this is actually quite cool, you know, and this is actually interesting. So
Any memories of Germany and the contrast between Germany and Goa? What are the most striking things? Because you've lived in many parts of the world, also the US and Europe and
Right.
rest
Very
is
different places. I mean, Goa
chalk and cheese.
almost couldn't be more different, I think, you know. Germany is very, very orderly, very organized,
Very punctual.
very punctual, which here is, you know,
Go and
time
stretchable
is
time.
very
Go and stretchable time.
Go and stretchable time is very
Relaxed.
very relaxed approach to. I get in trouble now when I go home because I'm much more relaxed about time, and it doesn't.
When you go home there.
Doesn't go over well. My dad is very German, so
I see.
yeah, he gets very upset. Driving on the roads, you know, it's when I first started driving here, I was so afraid and so nervous. I was just, oh my.
For a reason, because there seems to be no method to the madness, and
Right.
there isn't.
But you, at some point, it just okay.
It grows on you.
It grows on you, and you just accept it, and you know how it works. You know, okay, you have to expect everything. But it's also. It's a really friendly place. It's a really child-friendly place. So as a mother, I appreciate that. Everybody, you know, is happy to say hello to the kids.
Yeah.
They, you know, they get happy seeing children. In Germany, it's exactly the opposite. People get really grumpy when they see kids, and it's really sad to me. And you know, that's probably why we have a declining population. But here, even when we just came back from Germany, we just went to Germany for holiday, and the kids came back and they said, "We're so happy to be back because everybody's nice to us," you know. And some old lady was calling at them and waving at them and saying hi, and they said, "Look, even this old lady we've never met, you know, it's so great." So
a word of advice to youngsters who might want to enter this field, and it's particularly challenging for women because you know, it's a man's world, supposedly so. And you're fighting against a tide. You're proving that you are more than an equal.
still, it's not as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what advice to youngsters?
Photograph, definitely. And just go out there, have your ideas, be creative. Do not let anybody tell you that your idea is not worth it. Because if you've got a good idea, it's going to work. And going out there and doing something is a lot more important than getting a degree or anything like that. It can open doors. A degree can open doors for sure. And it helps you. I mean, it helped me enormously because all the theory and, you know, the discussions of everything around it was really enormously beneficial to me. So it is important, but more than that, you just have to shoot. And write, if you want to write.
Thank you so much, Christina. I really appreciate the work you put in, not only on the photography and the books front, but also on the ukulele. Looking forward to more happening on that front, and all the best to you.
Thank you so much.